Welcome. I am Kirsten Johnson, and I want to share with you a little bit of my story today and a few of the points, the things that changed and helped shape my life the most. So the biggest transformation that I've been through, the biggest shift in my life, was a breaking point in late September 2009. I had a moment at the end of a whole lot of anxiety, being diagnosed with almost every anxiety disorder and drinking around the clock, where I said, I can't do this anymore. I was at a breaking point where I couldn't keep living the way that I was living, but I didn't know how to get out of that. It was like I was on a downward spiral of fear and anxiety, and like the drinking made the anxiety go away, and then it came back even worse, and it stopped working basically. And what was the shifting point for me was there was a moment where I was looking in the mirror. So I got sober September 29th, 2009. So about a week before that, I looked in the mirror, and what I saw terrified me. I saw this empty, vacant shell of a person. It was like my soul was about to leave my body, and it was like the flickering of my spirit was about to go out. And I knew in that moment when I looked in my hallway mirror that I was dying. I was terrified. And so a week later, when a friend recommended that I get help, something had I told her I can't do this anymore, and there was a little bit of a willingness there. Those windows of change are small, where we're willing to do something new, right? Where enough is enough, and we're at that breaking point. And so I did. I ended up going to a 30-day rehab treatment program in Malibu. Paid a lot of money to go there, and it was not only was September 29th the worst day of my life, right, because I couldn't imagine living without alcohol, but it's also, when I look back, it's the best day of my life, because it's the day that everything changed. It's the day that in my entire life, I was 33 at that time, my entire life up until that point, everything changed. The way that I thought, who I hung out with, how I hung out, what I did with my time, the way that I thought, the way that I felt, how I managed my emotions. And so before that day, I had perfectionism, so I was always trying to put up this front and this facade, and if I just get the right car and the right job and the right boyfriend and the right outfit and the right diamond watch and all this stuff, then I'll be okay. Like if I just get the outside looking good, maybe then I'll look okay. And so my relationships were a little bit shallow because I didn't really know who I was, so how could I show you and let you know who I am? How can I be vulnerable if I don't know myself? I thought my worthiness was related to my achievement, so I was an overachiever. I was the head of an analytics department. I worked for startups. I have a master's in statistics, so I was a data analyst. I actually really love numbers. But so that was all centered out of my head, because with math, I could not only get it right, but I can get it right the fastest. So I can, there's no vulnerability there, there's no risk of rejection. So I played it safe in that way and tried to put on this whole facade, and it's obviously quite exhausting. And by that point, I had collected all of the anxiety disorders. I had a freeway phobia. I wasn't driving on the freeway for 3.5 years after a car accident, then a panic attack. I was a phobia of public speaking, generalized anxiety, social anxiety. So I was doing really, really poorly with mental health wise. But all that shifted the day that I went to rehab, the day that I invested in myself and paid someone to help me for a new life, right? And so, and for me, that commitment, that investment, that shift, that asking for help changed everything. That saved my life. And so that's what I'm the most grateful for in my life, is that I was able to get sober. And so then the next thing that really shifted my life was in 2012. I woke up one day disabled. My hand just didn't work. It was the oddest thing. I didn't understand it. I would later be diagnosed with carpal tunnel and tennis elbow, repetitive stress injuries from working on a laptop. But at the time, it was just like, I didn't know how to cope with chronic pain. I was 35 years old. The doctor told me, you need a plan for a life without the internet. You need to change careers. You'll never be able to be on a computer for more than 2 hours a day. I couldn't sleep because I was in so much pain, and I was sober, so I didn't know I wasn't taking meds. I just didn't know what to do. I was at another breaking point. Like, what am I going to do? I can't go on like this. Like, I'm physically exhausted. I can't work. I can't cook. I can't work out. I can't do yoga. I can't do all these things. So I was feeling a little bit like a victim for a minute. And what occurred to me was a couple of things. Number one, the question that I kept asking myself every day, and it's such a powerful question. The questions that we ask ourselves help to shape our life. So I said, well, what is my purpose? So I went into meditation and I was like, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? Because right away when I hurt my hand, I didn't know how to sit. I didn't know how to be. I was always doing. Again, my achievement was related to my worth, right? So I needed to do all this stuff to just distract myself from my feelings, but also to prove myself, to try to show that I was lovable and try to get love from people. I didn't really know I was doing that, but that's essentially what it is. So as soon as my hand was hurt, I started running. I ran my first mile ever, and then 2 miles, and then a 5K, and then I signed up with a running team. And we went to Kauai and did a half marathon, and then I hurt my hip, which was such a blessing because then it was I couldn't work and I couldn't run. So that's when I shifted and I started getting really into meditation. And that's where I transformed my relationship with pain. And I stopped using the word pain and I transformed my relationship with the sensations in my body, which is similar to what I did in 2009 where I transformed my relationship with anxiety and fear. So these are game changers for me and for humans, right? To transform our relationship with the things that we feel in our body, whether it's physical pain or emotional pain and the anxiety. So I shifted my relationship with pain. I learned how to do that at these meditation retreats. I have and so I just dropping my attention out of my thoughts and into my body. So I shifted that, and that was really powerful for me. But also thinking, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? And bringing that into the meditation, it became really clear what I'm born for, why I'm here, when I feel my spirit fully lit up in my body. So it's a very different question than I had asked when I was going to graduate school for statistics. Like what am I really good at, or what makes me shine? And I think it's important to incorporate our mind, our heart, and our gut in all that we do, right? But at this point, I'm asking what is my purpose? And I became really clear through meditation that I'm a transformational coach and that I'm a speaker. And it was odd because remember, I'm afraid of public speaking, but I just felt it completely, so clearly. And so I had the faith to trust that. And it was scary. It's scary anytime you go outside your comfort zone and you completely change your life, right? But the thing is, it's totally possible to completely change your life. So I was clear that this is the path I'm going down now. I'm going to change careers. The math path is over here, and I'm going to go down this route. And to get over the fear of public speaking, I did Toastmasters for a couple of years and worked on building those skills so to do what my purpose work is. I did a year-long coaching certification program, learned how to coach, and that was wonderful. We got to coach 100 hours worth of people before you even graduate. And then I launched my coaching business. And I just want to say, we don't have to be at that breaking point when we change when we're no longer going to tolerate things, right? When we raise our when we raise our standards. So if I want to have a fulfilling career, I don't have to wait till I'm physically disabled to go and have that fulfilling career. You don't have to wait, But that's how it happened for me, is that I was literally taken out of one career, and then I got to consider what career do I want, and then I went another way, which this is my passion, this is my purpose, this is my heart. And so that transition, though, it's just different questions that we're asking ourselves. And what was really helpful for me at that time was hiring a coach. So I had a coach that was supporting me and helping me do that transition, try all these new things, learn all these new skills to be this person that I wanted to grow into. I had this vision of who I wanted to grow into, and then I worked at getting the skills and the courage, really, through that coaching relationship to build myself into this new career and launch it. So that was amazing. And then maybe about a year after that, so now we're talking 2014, or 2012 is when I launched my business. 2014 is when I finally got surgery for my elbow and my wrist. And so that was another big turning point for me, because after the surgery, the doctor said it's likely going to be 6 to 12 months until you heal, until you can work again. And I had this immediate response, the victim response of, it's going to be 6 months to 12 months until I get to live. Waiting to live, right? It's a lie. Waiting to live is a lie. It's a waste of time. But I was feeling I still can't cook, I can't work out, I can't do yoga, I can't do all these things. And when I realized that I was in that victim mentality, now the questions are so important that we ask ourselves, why is this happening to me, is going to lead you to a certain kind of life. So I started asking, why is this happening for me? Which is so powerful. So why is this happening for me? Because this isn't my plan. I didn't want to wake up and not be able to use my body, or to not be able to be limited with my physical capabilities and my ability to work. At 35, I'm told to plan for a life without the internet. But so why is this happening for me? And as I began to question why is it happening for me and to contemplate that, it occurred to me that I could take my healing, all the things that I couldn't do, that I would go to the tropics and not do those things. So I ended up going to Bali to recover from my surgery, and it completely lifted my spirits. And I had this far out experience with nature there. I was just enraptured by the trees, the palm trees. And, Bali was very soothing for my soul, for my heart, for my body. It was very relaxing, a very feminine energy, right, compared to San Francisco. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with the island. I love San Francisco, but I had never been in love with like a place before. And I came home and I sold all my stuff and I moved to Bali. I bought a one-way ticket to Bali. And I moved there with the intention of spending a year letting go and just relaxing and finding out who I am without what I do as part of the equation. Why am I always doing all this stuff? Who am I? So my intention with going to Bali was to let go. And obviously it required a tremendous amount of courage to sell everything, to give up a rent-controlled apartment in San Francisco. But it made sense. As far as emotionally, it made sense. My spirits were lifted there. Physically, it made sense. I could relax and it could give my body the proper time to rest. Financially, it made sense. My monthly expenses in Bali were significantly less than my monthly only rent in San Francisco. So it made sense in a lot of different ways. And that time period, going to Bali with the question of why is this happening for me on this exploration and what is this experience I'm having with nature, with these trees? So I had this inquiry. And that experience going there, it was the time of my life. Probably even the happiest time of my life when I moved to Bali. Everything was just wonderful. I made all these friends. I was doing all this spiritual growth work, and I was meeting with all these teachers and gurus and learning deeper practices of meditation, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and it really helped with my healing. In that, what I learned there, one of the things that was interesting there, and here's another question that I asked myself, what I noticed through a spiritual emergency is that I was doing all this energy work. I was doing cranial sacral therapy, psychic surgery, having it on psychic surgery, Reiki masters attuned. So I was doing the Reiki masters level and giving people Reiki, and I just got into this esoteric spiritual stuff. But it was too much energy for my system, like the breath work and all the courses that I was doing. And I had I overdosed essentially on energy. A woman there, a shaman there, later told me that what was happening in my body was a Kundalini awakening, a sort of spiritual rite of passage. But it felt like I was going to die. I was overwhelmed with intense energy inside my system for about 4 days. And that's when I realized I'm doing in my spirituality what I was doing in the material world. I'm still compulsively not feeling. I'm still trying to blow my mind on demand with something. It's not with work. It's not with alcohol. It's not with cigarettes. Now it's with spirituality. And so that really shifted things, because then I'm like, well, why am I still compulsive? What am I running from? Who am I who am I without needing to compulsively shut off my feelings and numb my feelings out? If I accept my humanity and allow all the feelings, what happens? Who am I at that point? So I vowed to stop being compulsive, and I went off and I had this really fun, wild spiritual adventure across Nepal, India, Thailand. I did all these workshops and stayed at monasteries and did vipassanas, and I got really deep into my spiritual practice and did a lot of deep, deep healing work. And what I uncovered is that I had a lot of childhood sexual abuse trauma that was unhealed, that wasn't addressed. There was a lot of rage, shame, and anger, rage, shame, and sadness trapped inside my heart, essentially. And so I went through that emotional healing. I healed my heart. I did the grieving work. I cried, and I released the anger in a group, and it shot me into a dark night of the soul. This dark night of the soul is a period of the emotional release, deep emotional healing, and also this point of where I was at my early sobriety. The question of who am I comes back. So the dark night of the soul is really like everybody that I used to be, everything that I used to think I am, this identity that I used to have, it's bullshit. It's not me. But I don't know who I'm growing into yet. So it's that in-between place where the super, super powerful, scary, maybe, but powerful place of being in between who you thought you were, these identities, this job, this career, this relationship, and who you actually are, who you're growing into. So I was at that place again. Same place from early sobriety. Who am I? Now I'm at it again without all of my old stories. Who am I? And so I went through this process of asking that question. And what I realized in that, what was the most powerful, is I realized that I had always rejected and abandoned myself. I'd always shut off my feelings. It's a violent act to shut our feelings off. But I had been living that way. I had so much, not only did I have the sexual abuse from childhood, but I had all subsequent re-victimization. You know, I would wake up and be to being sexually assaulted and get PTSD from that. I had the car accident and the freeway phobia. I had the phobia of public speaking, which I'd worked on. But I had all this fear and trauma in my nervous system. And so when I really started going deep and freeing that, I basically, I don't know how to super explain it other than it was a deep healing of my heart. And I accepted myself and I accepted all my feelings. Now, again, feelings aren't fact, right? Accepting my feelings mean I'm noticing that there's a feeling here versus you made me angry, right? No, it's, oh, anger is here. So I allowed my feelings. It was the most loving time of my life. I cried for a long time on purpose. And it was the first time I had fully accepted myself. So the wonderful thing about that, about finding out who I was without needing to numb out my feelings, is that it allowed my heart to do this deep detox. And after, so why do we want to do this? Why do we want to feel? First of all, it's because we're humans and that's part of being a human, right? But after that, I fell in love, madly in love with this man on Bali. And I felt more love for him than I'd ever felt in my entire life. And I felt more love from him than I had ever felt in my entire life. My heart, and he's amazing, but it wasn't so much that it was him. It was that my heart, the capacity of my heart to love had expanded because I had shed the shame and the rage and the grief and the guilt that was all blocking my heart. So my heart had been freed. So that was a really beautiful time. And I feel like most people that I work with in my coaching business they're in a relationship that's not working for them. So it's either a relationship with fear, a relationship with anxiety, a relationship with alcohol, with food, or a relationship with their partner or their mother, but there's some sort of major relationship in their life, how they're relating to something that is toxic or that is traumatizing or it is destructive. And so I just really want to let you know that no matter what you're going through, it's totally possible to radically transform your life. My life looks nothing like it used to, especially before I was sober, right? And so for me, the most important things that I think principles to live by or the most important things I think people can do in this lifetime is learn how to master their fear and their emotions, but particularly fear. What happens when fear comes into my body? Am I going to take action in the direction of my dream? Then that's called courage, and my life expands and I get to live a life beyond my wildest dreams. Or when fear comes, am I going to play small and go in this other direction? And at the end of my drinking, I was basically agoraphobic. I was afraid to leave the house. So at that point, when I was not doing anything that scared me, my life got really small. And then when I hired help and started facing my fears and learning how to be with my emotions through these meditation practices and other principles, my life started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So we have that choice every day, every moment. Am I going to surrender to my fears or am I going to overcome my fears? And I think the most important thing that we can do, because we're souls inside bodies, right? We're here, we're energy that's inside of our body. That's just reality, that there's an energy inside of us, that it is the same energy that was inside of us when we were 4 years old, but our 4-year-old body is no longer here, right? So I think mastering your emotions, particularly mastering fear and uncovering and living your life purpose is what we're here for. We were born for something. There is a reason why our soul is in this body and we're on a mission. And when we can become more conscious and wake up and practice these principles, through guidance, through insight into our own body, through healing, then we're on purpose. And so if any of this resonates with you, definitely send me a message. Let me know where you're at with your life, what you're struggling with, which relationship you're having a hard time with. And I hope you're having a beautiful day. I look forward to hearing from you.